It is against this background that we shall receive the address of the President virtually in today's sitting. Since then, he has regularly updated the nation on its recovery, while various sections of the public are busy praying for the president. While various sections of the and as Parliament, the public continue also praying for the president, and as a nation, we want him to be back on his feet and work for the country. We want to thank all the citizens in Uganda who have joined in these prayers for the president. Your Excellency, we want to assure you of our unwavering support, love, and prayers for a faster healing for you to be able to guide this country. It's, however, unfortunate that some very few insensitive Ugandans bring some false and alarming information of where they say the president in the ICU, the president is very sick. Our president is very okay, and he's with us virtually. I want to urge all the citizens of goodwill to spread the love, not hatred. Let's wish each other well, and we'll lead a country which is a better country. As Parliament, we want to convey our wishes to the President for faster recovery. And as the Bible says in Isaiah 53:5, and by his stripes we are healed. And indeed, you're going to be healed. As a God-fearing nation, we commit our President to the Almighty God for his complete healing. We actually miss him here, but we know you're with us in spirit. Honorable members, the delivery of the budget speech today is a constitutional requirement under Article 155 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, 1995, which stipulates the President shall cause to be prepared and laid before Parliament in each financial year, but in any case, not later than the 15th day before the commencement of the financial year. Estimates of revenue and expenditure of government for the next financial year. The national budget is an enabling tool for government to implement the development agenda and its policies. And in pursuit to the aspirations that the President talked during the State of Nation address. Honorable members, today's budget speech will therefore be communicated to the citizenry and what government intends to achieve and match it with the strategic plans under the NDP 3 and how the resources are going to be allocated and where they are going to be got from. Your Excellency and the honorable members, the legislature duly executed its constitutional obligation of appropriation, which is enshrined under Article 156 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, and it did it timely and exhaustively. The approval of the national budget as prescribed under the national budget is prescribed under Section 14(1) of the Public Finance Management Act 2015 and Rule 151, 152 of the Rules of Procedure of Parliament. Honorable members, I want sincerely thank you for executing your constitutional obligation. Thank you so much. Your Excellency, I'll briefly highlight the key milestones by legislature in the budget consideration process. One, there was an approval of a national budget framework paper. That is the beginning of the budgeting process. The approval of the national budget framework paper 2023-2024, 2027-2028 on 31st January 2023. That is pursuant to Section 9, 5, and 8 of the Public Finance Management Act 2015 and Rule 145 of the Rules of Procedure. Then we have the approval of the ministerial policy statements for financial year 2023-2024. Can I have order in the House? Honorable members, can I have order in the House? There is an approval of ministerial policy statements 2023-2024, and that is in line with Section 12 of the Public Finance Management Act 2015 and Rule 149 of the Rules of Procedure. Consideration of the tax and revenue bills. These tax and revenue bills is where the source of the money comes from. This was considered on 2nd, 3rd, and 16th of May 2023, and that is pursuant to Section 8 of the Public Finance Management Act 2015 and Rule 150 of the Rules of Procedure. The approval of the budget for financial year 2023-2024 was done on 18th May 2023, pursuant to Section 14 of the Public Finance Management Act and Rule 151 and 152 of the Rules of Procedure. However, on consideration of the budget, as legislature, I want to register our disappointment. Out of all the 83 ministers we have in government, we had a handful in the House. And this is the second time we are having a handful when we are considering a national budget. Your Excellency, as we receive the budget speech, I wish to highlight the following salient observations. Local government financing as a share of the national budget continues to stagnate about 11% of the last decade. And this implies the budget of the local government is insufficient to adequately stimulate the desired growth envisaged under the fiscal decentralization strategy. 2, the capacity of the local authorization to raise the local revenues remains a dismay. This has impeded the ability to fund a number of priority areas. So we need to get more areas where we can be able to get funds. 3, the continued rollout of the parish development model requires addressing existent challenges which this Parliament has already identified, and Parliament together with the Executive should work together to ensure that the PDM becomes a success, since we are putting a lot of money in PDM. 4, the increased domestic borrowing is amidst the increased public expenditure. which is a pressure to the economy. And as 11th Parliament, we want to request that we reduce on public borrowing. 5, the high unit cost of implementing the infrastructure projects, notably in sustainable energy development and integrated transport infrastructure and service programs. This is mainly attributed to overdependence on foreign entities and supervised by foreign persons who are paid highly instead of making sure that our local content is encouraged and given work to be done. Continued accumulation of domestic areas by government in a disruptive effect of performance of the private sector. Your Excellency, all the aforementioned observation point to the need to widen on our revenue and enable adequate financing of our national priorities. I therefore urge Executive to work hard to expand the tax base and increase on the revenue that is collected for us to be able to fund the priority areas. Your Excellency and honorable members, in the coming financial year, we urge the accounting officers to ensure efficiency and effectiveness in budget execution. Among others is plugging the existing budgets, linkages, strengthening the internal controls, reducing the wastage, and then public loss. We also have MDS who understand that they have to present their budgets to Parliament during the budget framework paper, but they fail to do it. So they need to do whatever they do within the law. This will enable Parliament to do its work perfectly. We need to work with each other for us to be able to pass a budget that covers the whole country, that has an interest of national character. Your Excellency and my honorable members, our role as legislators will not only stop in appropriation and approving the budget. I have heard a lot of sentiments saying, what do we oversight? Oversight is one of our roles. And as we give out money today, we must do oversight of the money that we approved and given out. That is your role, and you must do it. There shouldn't be an aspect that is conflicting oversight roles. The only institution that is given by the Constitution is Parliament of Uganda. The rest are just coming in to do their oversight, but ours is constitutional. When the new financial year commences on 1st July, we require parliamentary committees to scale up their oversight role. I have had incidences where ministries are saying, we cannot go from committee to committee. You're doing what you're supposed to do. When the committee requires you to go to a committee and represent your issues, that's what you're supposed to do. So, Honorable Kasaija, next time when you're required, kindly have your ministers in finance. And this is according to Article 79 of the Constitution of Republic of Uganda that gives us our right to do the oversight, legislation, representation, and appropriation. On that note, I would like to inform you that pursuant to Article 164(3) of the Constitution and Article 196 of the Constitution, and Section 16 of the National Audit Act of 2008, the 11th Parliament has timely considered almost all the Auditor General's reports. Article 1635 of the Constitution as per Article 1635 of the Constitution, we are sending the reports to you for a Treasury memoranda. We want actions that have been taken on what Auditor General found out from MDS. And you know, constitutionally, there is a timeline for that. On that note, therefore, I congratulate the Parliamentary Public Accounts Committees, especially the Local Government Accounts Committee and the Park Central for the good work you've done. As Parliament, we will continue to effectively play our role of oversight, appropriation, representation, and legislation as enshrined in Article 78, 79, and 163 of the Constitution, and to ensure that we do our work as per the requirement of the Constitution that we sought to uphold to. And we want to request executive that we work together to ensure that we make Parliament a people-centered Parliament. I would like to congratulate Your Excellency the President, the NRM party, and the people of Bukedea for electing a woman LOC 5 by over 90%. I also want to congratulate the Minister of Finance for having the budget ready today, and we are here ready to receive the budget. Your Excellency the President and honorable members, as Parliament, since the House was opened, we are ready to start. We are only waiting for the budget, and once more, I want to thank you so much, and I say all this for God and my country.
Item number 5, presentation of the budget speech by His Excellency the President of the Republic of Uganda.
Honorable members, I have duly been notified that the delivery of the budget speech will be made by the Honorable Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development on behalf of His Excellency the President, who is virtually present in the sitting. The President will make additional remarks after the Minister has presented. And the President is watching whatever we are doing. Even in absentia, we are supposed to respect Rule 10.4. Let's listen, get the budget, and then we will wait to hear the President's remarks. I now want to invite the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development to deliver the budget to the nation.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, Your Excellency, the Vice President, Right Honorable Speaker of Parliament, Your Lordship, the Chief Justice, the Right Honorable Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Your Lordship, the Deputy Chief Justice, the Vice Chairman of the National Resistance Movement Party, the Honorable Prime Minister, the Honorable Leader of the Opposition in Parliament, Honorable Ministers, Honorable Members of Parliament, Your Excellencies, the Ambassadors and Heads of Diplomatic Missions, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Right Honorable Speaker, in fulfillment of Article 155, Part 1 of our Constitution, I prepared and present to Parliament on behalf of His Excellency the President estimates of revenue and expenditure for the financial year 2023/2024. Parliament on Thursday, 18th of May 2023, approved this budget. My statement today highlights the budget as appropriated by this Parliament. Madam Speaker, His Excellency the President declared the 2021-2026 term a Kisanja for socio-economic transformation. While opening this 11th Parliament on the 24th of May 2021, the President said, and I quote, "Now that we have laid the foundation by building roads, hospitals, schools, water sources, and other public services, the focus should be turned to creating wealth, jobs, and incomes," close the quote. This addresses the 39% of Ugandans that are still in the non-money economy. Madam Speaker, the NRM government has laid a strong foundation to accelerate the economic social transformation for all Ugandans. The budget for next financial year 23-24, therefore, has been prepared to advance this strategic mission. Consequently, the theme of the budget has been retained as full monetization of Uganda's economy through commercial agriculture, industrialization, expanding and broadening services, digital transformation, and market access. Madam Speaker, in my statement, I will address the following. 1. Performance of the economy during the financial year 22-23, as well as our future economic prospects. 2. Accountability for the financial year 22-23 budget. 3. Financial year 23-24 budget priorities, interventions. And 4. The financing strategy for financial year 23-24 budget. The recent economic performance. Madam Speaker, Uganda's economy has remained resilient and is on a steady recovery path. Yes. You want me to repeat it? Hold on. I will repeat it at an appropriate time. The economy this year is projected to have grown by 5.5% compared to 4.6% last year. This year's performance compares favorably with the average growth rate for sub-Saharan Africa, estimated at 3.6% for calendar year 2023. The size of the economy is estimated at 184.3 trillion compared to shillings 162.9 trillion last year. This is equivalent to US dollars 49.4 billion compared to US dollars 45.6 billion last year. This expansion is on account of good performance of the services sector, which grew at 6.2% compared to 4.1% in the previous year. Agriculture has also performed very strongly, growing by 5% despite the dry spell in the first quarter of this financial year. In particular, food crops, livestock, and fishing performed very well. Industry grew at 3.9%, driven largely by manufacturing and construction activities, especially in the oil and gas industry. Inflation and interest rates. Madam Speaker, inflation is reducing steadily on account of well-coordinated fiscal and monetary policy. Inflation has significantly decreased since October 2022, when it peaked at 10.7%. Last month, the pace at which prices were rising slowed down to 6.2%. Prices of key items such as soap, sugar, fuel at pumps, among others, have significantly reduced. With respect to the cost of money, commercial bank lending interest rates have increased slightly to 19.3% in April 2023 from 18.8% in April 2021. This mainly caused the increase in the central bank rates of 10% since October 2022 in order to fight inflation. To reduce the cost of money for the private sector, government has taken a deliberate policy to reduce domestic borrowing, which is a major driver of commercial bank lending rates. In addition, government has also provided long-term and affordable capital through the Uganda Development Bank, Emyoga, the Agricultural Credit Facility, and the Small Business Recovery Fund to the large, medium, and small and micro enterprises. A total of shillings 2.7 trillion has been provided to date. Private sector credit. Madam Speaker, despite the increase in the interest rates, total private sector credit increased from 19.5 trillion in May 2022 to shillings 20.5 trillion in April 2023, representing an annual growth of 4.8. The growth in lending to industry and agriculture was 6.2 and 3.3 respectively. Trade and personal lending recorded an annual growth of 14.1% and 19.1% respectively in the same period. This underscores the ongoing government intervention to ensure that agriculture and industry access adequate and affordable basis. Now I turn to the exchange rate. Madam Speaker, the Uganda shillings has remained stable against major global currencies despite the strengthening of the US dollar. Between April 2022 and April 2023, the Uganda shilling depreciated by 5.8% against the US dollar, compared to an average depreciation rate of 8% within the East African region. Let me repeat this.
McDonald's-Fans aufgepasst! Hol dir im Juni den 2-für-1-Deal auf 6 Chicken, Spicy Chicken McNuggets oder McPlant Nuggets und spare. Jetzt bei Lieferando.
The Uganda shilling has remained stable against major global currencies despite the strengthening of the US dollar. Between April 2022 and April 2023, the Uganda shilling has remained depreciated by 5.8% against the US dollar, compared to an average inflation rate of 8% between April 2022 and April 2023. The Ugandan increase shown a direct investment inflows into the oil and gas industry, significant recovery in tourism and recent good performance. And the stability of the external trade. The Ugandan increase shown a direct investment inflows into the oil and gas industry, significant recovery in 2020 and recent good performance. Uganda's exports of external trade amounted to US dollars 4.2 billion compared to US dollars 3.1 billion over the same period over the previous financial year. This represents a 35.5% increase, mainly driven by an increase in exports of gold, coffee, fish, sugar, beans, maize, and light manufactured products to the regional market. The NRM government has provided support through different initiatives to boost exports. These include the provision of long-term and affordable capital, investment in transport infrastructure, and energy in particular, plus building industrial parks. These efforts have started yielding results. The manufactured exports have emerged as a major contributor to merchandise exports. For example, in the year 2022, Uganda exported sugar worth of $163 million, cement worth US dollars 87 million, plastics worth 61 million US dollars, soap 31 US dollars, million, and beer worth US dollars 29 million. There were no exports of any of these items as recently as 2006. Thank you very much, but I need you to hear it louder. So that this coming financial year we work harder, like horses. At a regional level, by April 2023, we have recorded a traded surplus with our East African community trading partners of shillings 1 billion, no, of US dollars 1 billion. Tanzania remains the only East African trading partner where we recorded a bilateral trade deficit of US dollars 154 million. Our trade balance will be strengthened further as we continue to boost exports and enhance domestic manufacturing capacity to replace some imports. Now, foreign direct investment and remittances and tourism. Madam Speaker, foreign direct investment inflows to Uganda amounted to US dollars 1.5 billion by April 2023. Workers' remittances increased to US dollars 1.3 billion in calendar year 2022 compared to US dollars 1.1 billion the previous year. This helps to finance our foreign exchange requirements, such as imports and debt servicing. Tourism revenue increased to US dollars 847.8 million by April 2023 from 777.8 million in the same period a year ago. Employment. Madam Speaker, the November 2022 National Labor Force Survey puts the size of the labor force at 23.5 million people. Out of these, 10 million were employed, representing only 42% employment rate. Another 8.2 million, equivalent to 35%, were engaged in subsistence agriculture, and 9 out of every 10 employed Ugandans were working in the informal sector. Close to 380,000 employment opportunities have been created under the Presidential Initiative on Wealth and Job Creation, but we still need more. Now, Emyoga. Madam Speaker, the target of government is to create over 2.5 million jobs in the next 5 years. This will be achieved by effectively implementing the parish development model, industrialization, wealth creation, and full monetization of the economy. I will elaborate how we will implement this initiative later. Now, fiscal performance. Madam Speaker, the fiscal deficit is estimated at 5.1% of the GDP this financial year, lower than 7.4% last financial year. This is due to reduction in both recurrent and development expenditure, increased grants. The fiscal deficit has been financed through domestic borrowing and external loans. Total domestic revenue collections amounted to shillings 21.7 trillion by May this year and are projected to be 25.6 trillion by close of this financial year, which is just a few weeks away. The total domestic revenue is equivalent to 13.9% of GDP and covers 68% of the total expenditure, including interest payments on our public debt, but excluding the principal repayment of both external and domestic debt. Economic growth strategy and outlook. Madam Speaker, the economic growth strategy underlying the budget for the next financial year and medium term includes the following. 1. Increase domestic revenue mobilization and a reduction in non-concession borrowing to ensure debt sustainability. 2. Effective implementation of the parish development model and the MIOGA initiatives. 3. Effective implementation of the various export strategies and enhancing access to global and regional markets. 4. Support for the private sector by reducing the cost of doing business through 1. Construction of the standard gauge railway and the rehabilitation of the meter gauge railway. 2. Development of small-scale solar-powered irrigation schemes to address climate change and ensure our food security. 3, maintenance of both tarmac and mudam roads. 4, continued investment in industrial parks and energy transmission lines. Provision of affordable credit for micro and small enterprises and lower-income groups through the Small Business Recovery Fund, Emyoga and Microfinance Support Center, and funding for the medium to large enterprise through the Uganda Development Bank. 4, no, 6, provision of provision of quality seedlings, pesticides, fertilizers, storage, and marketing in the agro-industrialization value chain in order to increase agricultural production and productivity. 7, rapid development of oil and gas production, specifically the construction of the East African crude oil pipeline and the national oil refinery. 8, expansion of our skilled labor force to meet the demand of a diversified economy, especially industrial skills. 9, mitigation of the negative impact of climate change on the economy and our livelihoods. 10, implementation of the Greater Kampala Metropolitan Infrastructure Development Master Plan. And 11, maintenance of peace and security of persons and property are the bedrock on which the above are based for. Peace, security, freedom. Madam Speaker, as a result of these interventions, Uganda's economy is projected to grow at 6% in financial year 23-24. Can I repeat the other thing? You see what I was telling you? Over the next 5 years, the economy is projected to grow at an average of 6.5% to 7% per year. Twekubireko mu ngalo as Ugandans banange. These things are not common everywhere. Financial year 23-24 budget priorities. Madam Speaker, the budget for next financial year is aimed at achieving the following broad objectives. 1, urgent completion of key public investments with higher multiplier effects on the attainment of NDP 3 targets and the NRM 2021-2026 manifesto. 2, enhance revenue mobilization and collections. 3, full-scale operationalization of the parish development model. And 4, enhance government efficiency and effectiveness through rationalization of public expenditure and the payroll and audit and so forth. Payroll audit and so forth. The key priorities funded to achieve these objectives are the following. 1, boosting household incomes and micro enterprises. 2, commercializing agriculture to enhance production and productivity and improve competitiveness of agricultural products. 3, supporting private sector growth. 4, investing in the people of Uganda. And I emphasize that one, investing in the people of Uganda. 5, improving the stock and the quality of infrastructure. 6, expediting implementation of strategic interventions in innovation, research and development, and the mineral, oil, and the gas industry. Madam Speaker, in order to effectively implement these strategic priorities, the government shall ensure peace and security, good governance, the rule of law as the bedrock for economic activities. I now turn to detail the key actions we will be undertaking in these strategic priorities. Boosting household incomes and micro enterprises. Madam Speaker, the parish development model will boost household incomes as well as development of micro enterprises. Since the launch of the PDM in February 2022, a total of shillings 590.2 billion has been disbursed to all the 10,459 parishes nationwide, translating into shillings 50 million per parish. The balance will be disbursed by end of this month. Next financial year, the parish development model has been allocated 1.1 trillion Uganda shillings. The Emyoga initiative will further boost household incomes and micro enterprises at parish and sub-county levels by directly funding parish and sub-county enterprise groups. By March 2023, seed capital worth shillings 494 billion had been disbursed to 6,721 constituency-based Emyoga circles. Over 600,000 individuals had successfully applied for credit from their parish-based associations. Nearly half, 46%, of these were women. Women are very persistent, I can tell you. And when they say they do something, they will do it. Youth, 25%, and the PWDs, 4%. These circles have also mobilized savings of shillings 78 billion and a further shillings 80 billion recovered from the loans given to the beneficiaries. Now somebody said the Emyoga is non-performing. He does not know what he's talking about. And I'm sorry for that type of person. This demonstrates the sustainability of the Emyoga initiative. Next financial year, shillings 100 billion has been allocated to the Emyoga initiative. Madam Speaker, in order to grow local enterprises, 19 skilling centers have been established across the country under the Presidential Industrial Hubs initiative. So far, 28,750 trainees have successfully completed training in skills programs, and 6,110 are undergoing training in various fields. Our Lady of Fatima Catholic Church Nakurabye, Luzira Prisons, Subway Crest Towers, Wabigaro Parish Community, Butikirwa, Kigowa, Ntinda, and a community hall. This support will continue over the medium term. Madam Speaker, shillings 60 billion has been allocated for skilling the youth in the next financial year. Commercializing agriculture. Madam Speaker, during this financial additional funding amounting shillings 110 billion was provided for food security interventions in government institutions with farms including the UPDF, Uganda Prisons, Ministry of Agriculture, the National Agricultural Research Organization, and the National Agriculture Genetics Resources Center, and data bank. The priority actions to commercialize agriculture next financial year will include the following. 1. Support agricultural research for the development of climate-resilient crops and animal species. 2. Promote environmental conservation, restoration and protection of the degraded water catchment areas and forest covers. 3. Construct small, medium, and large-scale irrigation schemes in water-stressed areas. This will include the construction of earth dams at Unyama in Gulu, Namaru in Kapiripirit, Sipi in Bulambuli, Kabuyanda in Singiro, among others. Implement large-scale mechanization and irrigation, and improve farmer mobilization, education, and partnership with large commercial farmers for the production of strategic commodities such as coffee, maize, and tea to meet national and international demand. Madam Speaker, shillings 2.2 trillion has been allocated for food security, irrigation, climate change mitigation, value chain development, agricultural research, and disease control, among others. Supporting private sector growth. Madam Speaker, the private sector has been directly supported through industrial parks development, promoting small and medium enterprises, and facilitating tourism. Industrial development and investment. 8 government-owned industrial parks are currently operational. These are Namamve, Jinja, Bweyogerere, Mbale, Soroti, Mbarara, Kasese, and Ruzira. In addition, there are 3 industrial parks developed under the public-private partnership arrangement at Kapeka, Mukono, and Buikwe. Uganda Investment Authority has acquired 12 square miles for industrial development provided by various local governments in the 18 zones across our country. Uganda's global reputation as an investment destination has been boosted significantly in the recent past. Uganda has been named the #1 investment destination in East Africa by the AIM Global 2023 Abu Dhabi. In addition, our country has been ranked among the top 10 African countries for the best investment destination in Africa by the African Development Bank. It is now also ranked first in East Africa for capital market growth by Abusa Bank. We are moving. Small and medium enterprises. Madam Speaker, these SMEs in manufacturing and export sectors will be supported by $20 million from World Bank Investment for Industrial Transformation and Employment Project, which we abbreviate as INVITE, that will provide grants and a concession credit to qualifying SMEs. These SMEs will access new and innovative financing products with long-term financing of up to 15 years. This intervention aims at increasing Uganda's manufactured export products, generate direct and indirect jobs for more than 200,000 workers, and safeguard existing jobs for 530,000 workers. Madam Speaker, an allocation of shillings 209.3 billion has been provided through the INVITE project for next financial year. Now I turn to tourism. Uganda has increasingly been recognized as a tourism destination and is ranked by CNN as one of the top 10 best tourist destinations in the world. Nkademu, Uganda has increasingly been recognized as a tourism destination and is ranked by CNN as one of the top best tourism destination in the world. We will continue to promote domestic and inbound tourism, including the use of digital platforms. Uganda will also be marketed as a global and regional center for meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibitions. Hospitality standards will be enforced through licensing, grading, and classification of tourism facilities. Shillings 249 billion has been allocated for the promotion of our tourism business. Madam Speaker, all the private sector interventions I have detailed above have been allocated shillings 2.4 trillion. Now investing in people. Madam Speaker, Uganda has registered visible improvements in healthcare outcomes, access to knowledge, and a decent standard of living. On average, a Ugandan now lives longer at 64 years, up from 53 years, just as recently as 2015. The Ugandan attains more years of schooling and enjoys a higher income per capita than ever before. Let me repeat this, because it is interesting, especially to me, who is working day and night to make sure that the youth and the sick are helped to recover. Uganda has registered visible improvement in healthcare outcomes, access to knowledge, and a decent standard of living. On average, a Ugandan now lives longer, 64 years, up from 53 years, just as recently as 2015. Attains more years of schooling and enjoys a higher income per capita than ever before. Now we turn to health. Access to health care by Ugandans remains a key priority of this government. Consequently, 381 health center 2s have been upgraded to health center 3s. Honorable Jane, you will confirm that one. In addition, 250,000 health center 3s have been upgraded to health center 4 and equipped and are now functional, largely supported by the Uganda Intergovernmental Fiscal Transfer Program, which we abbreviate as UGFIT, which is co-funded by the World Bank. Construction and equipping of 31 new health center 3s in sub-counties without any health facility is now at 90% complete. The health referral system has also been enhanced by fully functioning 143 intensive care units and 5 high dependency units in national, regional referral hospitals across our country. Next year, the Mulago Super Specialized Hospital and the new state-of-the-art intensive care unit at Uganda Cancer Institute will be fully operationalized. They will provide specialized care to all Ugandans and reduce medical referrals abroad. In addition, all existing health center 4s and health center 3s will be facilitated to offer quality health care to all Ugandans. In this respect, health worker supervision and management will be strengthened to reduce absenteeism. After the ongoing audit of the payroll, the ban on health worker recruitment will be lifted. Let me repeat this. After the ongoing audit of the payroll, the ban on health worker recruitment will be lifted. Government in the next few weeks resolves the plight of the medical interns and doctors designated as senior house officers in view of their important role in supporting the health care system. Government, we, in the next few weeks, resolve the plight of medical interns and doctors designated as senior house officers in view of their important role in supporting the healthcare system. So please, interns, calm down. We are coming to rescue you. In the meantime, I have provided shillings 22 billion to clear outstanding areas for medical interns and senior house officers for the financial year ending June this year. Education. Madam Speaker, we have registered significant progress in accessing to education. Uganda's literacy rate improved from 70.2% in 2012 to 79% in 2021. Education enrollment in public schools is now at 8.4 million children in primary school and at 833 pupils in secondary and 174,000 students in tertiary institutions. The question we must raise, these children were 8.8 in primary, now in secondary they are only 83300. Where did the balance go? To improve delivery of the recently launched curriculum, 300,100 teachers were trained and inspection of learning institutions was enhanced using the inspection system. The teacher effectiveness and learners achievement system has helped to reduce teacher absenteeism and improved pupil attendance. The education management information system has been revamped to support data management and decision-making in education. To enhance sports development, talent identification, nurturing, and professional development have been emphasized. Madam Speaker, the Mountains of the Moon University was operationalized during this year. Upgrading of the facilities was completed at Uganda Technical College in Lira, Elgon, and Bushenyi. Next year, the construction and equipping of 2 unit laboratories in 21 secondary schools currently without any will commence in line with the science, technology, engineering, mathematics policy. Government will continue with the construction of 115 city secondary schools in sub-counties without any under the Uganda Intergovernmental Fiscal Transfer Program. Madam Speaker, after the ongoing audit of the government payroll, the ban on recruitment will also be lifted to cover the staffing gaps in education. Madam Speaker, government will continue to support sports activities and entertainment talents and enforce copyrights for performing artists. Safe water. Madam Speaker, the national water coverage for safe and clean water for human consumption now stands at 70%, with 67% in rural areas and 72% in urban areas. But we still need more. In rural areas, graft flow schemes have been completed at Lirima in Manafa, Lukalu, Kabasanda in Utambala, and Nyawiche, Kichenke in Ibanda. Piped water systems have also been constructed at Nyakibingo in Rukungiri, Kabuyanda in Isingiro, and Oromo water supply system in Kitugum Ramo. In addition, 40 solar-powered mini-piped schemes serving 173 persons have been constructed across 15 least-served districts, including Liantonde, Sembabule, Yumbe, Rakai, Buyende, Kamuli, and Kakumiro. In urban areas, 9 piped water supply and sanitation systems have been completed in Dokolo, Padibe, Lamo, Odramachaku, Arua, Kagadi, Morolem, Alerek, Abim, and Kambuga 2 in Kanungu. Madam Speaker, access to safe and clean water will be enhanced to achieve 85% coverage in rural areas and 100% average in urban areas by the year 2025. Next year, the main activities toward this goal include construction of 1,540 boreholes in 1,050 villages and town wards, building 49 large and 67 medium and 80 small pipe-to-water schemes in both urban and rural areas, and the rehabilitation and maintenance of 50 water systems in growth centers. Interventions that build human capital have been allocated 9.6 trillion. In addition, the government, together with the World Bank, are implementing US dollars 500 million. Uganda, in Uganda, through the Intergovernmental Fiscal Transfer Program, to construct health centers 3 and 4 and seed secondary schools and microscale irrigation facilities in local governments that do not have these facilities, as I've said above. Enhancing infrastructure stock and quality. Madam Speaker, the stock and the quality of infrastructure is a key enabler for economic growth, development, and social transformation. Transport infrastructure. Transport infrastructure development has been a major hallmark of Uganda's recent economic development. The road sector in 1986 totaled 97,100 kilometers. Today, it has expanded 20-fold to almost 160,000 kilometers, while only 6,700 kilometers of today's road network is paved. The road network now allows access to even the remotest part of Uganda. Next financial year, we will substantially complete 16 national road projects, including Atiak, Laropi, Moroto, Lokitanyala, Kawuku, Werenga, Namugonde, Bugiri, Nsambia, Mukwano, the Kampala flyover, and the Shere town, Kiamate access roads. In addition, priority will be accorded to maintenance of existing road network, both national and district urban and community access roads. The Bukungu, Kagwara, Kaberamaido ferry and related landing sites, and Lake Bunyonyi ferries and their landing sites will also be completed. Madam Speaker, emergency repairs of the Kampala-Malaba meter gauge railway was completed this year. Emergency repairs. Let me repeat. Madam Speaker, emergency repairs of the Kampala-Malaba meter gauge railway has completed this year. The full, my team, please, you'll have to come and explain this. The full rehabilitation of the Kampala, Malaba, and Tororo Gulu meter gauge railway will commence next financial year. 49 of the right of way for Kampala, Malaba standard gauge railway has been acquired. The construction of Malaba Kampala standard gauge railway will commence next financial year, for which shillings 535 billion has been provided. Madam Speaker, in the air transport sector, the redevelopment of and expansion of Entebbe International Airport is at 85% complete and is due to be completed by July 2024. The construction of Kabalega International Airport now stands at 91.7% and will be completed by September 2023. We shall also rehabilitate and upgrade the following aerodromes that are under feasibility studies: Kidepo, Pakuba, Mbarara, Gulu, Arua, Kisoro, and Kasese. Madam Speaker, an allocation of shillings 4.5 trillion, representing 13.3% of the total budget, has been budgeted for road maintenance, construction, railway development and rehabilitation, water and air transport development. Of particular significance, an allocation of shillings 1 billion has been provided to each district, city and municipality for road grading, mudam and compacting. In total, shillings 176 billion has been allocated for this purpose. We have also secured US dollars $608.7 million, equivalent to shillings 2.25 trillion, to address flooding, traffic congestion, poor road infrastructure, and signalized injunctions, and unemployment in Greater Kampala metropolitan area, covering Kampala, Wakiso, Mukono, and Mpigi district, and their municipalities. This will upgrade 504 kilometers of roads, including junction signalization in 8 urban authorities, rehabilitation of 30 stormwater drainage points, upgrade 23 markets, and construct 25 artisanal parks and industrial work spaces for the small-scale manufacturers. Madam Speaker, in collaboration with the World Bank, government is implementing the US $360 million Uganda support to municipal infrastructure development WISMID program to improve infrastructure and address operational challenges in the cities and municipalities. Power infrastructure. Power generation, transmission, and distribution infrastructure have continued to expand. Generation capacity increased to 1,379.1 megawatt as at March 2023 from 1,343.9 megawatt in March 2022, an increase of 34.4 megawatt, although that is not enough again. With the commissioning of the Karuma hydropower project planned for September this year, generation capacity will increase to 1,976 megawatt. The 6 megawatt Nyagaka 3 hydropower project is also due for commissioning by end of this month. In transmission, a total of 417 kilometers of transmission lines were added to the main grid during the year, bringing the total transmission line network now to 4,011 kilometers. To enable evacuation of power from 600 megawatt Karuma hydropower project, the 2048 kilometer Karuma Kawanda, the kilometer 55 Karuma Oruyo, and the 76 kilometer Karuma Lira lines have been completed. Next financial year, 761 kilometers of transmission lines and associated power substation will be constructed to improve the stability and reliability of the network. We also build the capacity of the Uganda electricity generation and transmission companies to manage the generation and distribution networks after the expiry of the ESCOM and the Umeme concessions. Madam Speaker, next financial year, 1.3 trillion has been allocated to electricity interventions. Digital transformation, Madam Speaker. Turning to the digital transformation, 4,717 kilometers of optic fiber has been laid across the country. Geographical coverage of broadband services stands at 66%, and 25 broadband sites have been upgraded to 3G, providing services to over 700,000 Ugandans. Free Wi-Fi hotspots have been established at 9 border posts, namely Ruakaka, Mpondwe, Mutu. No. I'm still verifying. Sorry, he has interrupted me. Free Wi-Fi hotspots have been established at 9 border posts, namely Rwakaka, Mpondwe, Mutukula, Busia, Vura, Katuna, and Eregu. Next year, Wi-Fi will be deployed to 820 locations targeting schools, hospitals, markets in selected sub-regions. The Greater Kampala Metropolitan Area Network will be upgraded to monitor service provision over the national backbone infrastructure. We will also digitally transform public service delivery by connecting all essential services such as schools, hospitals, tourism sites, and the police to the national backbone. Madam Speaker, an allocation of shillings 192 billion has been provided to accelerate digital transformation. Expediting strategic initiatives. Madam Speaker, the development of oil and gas, the beneficiation of minerals and investment in science, innovation, and research are key strategic initiatives that will significantly support that socio-economic transformation. Oil and gas. Madam Speaker, the final investment decision for the development of the East African crude oil pipeline was taken on the 2nd of February 2022. We are fast-tracking the construction of the East African crude oil pipeline, EACOP, and the National Oil Refinery. In addition, the right-of-way for Kabale, Hoima, Buloba refined products pipeline and the financing for the refinery and associated infrastructure will be concluded. Preparatory work for the development of petrochemical industry at the Kabale Petro-based industrial park will also be expedited. I have allocated shillings 447 billion to fast-track the development of petroleum resources next financial year. Science, innovation, and research. Madam Speaker, government is supporting several innovation and scientific research initiatives that will propel Uganda industry into the high technology economy. These include vaccine research and development, including therapeutics and diagnostics, to enable Uganda to enter into the pathogenic economy. 3, automotive industry technology development. 4, chipset and robotics manufacturing. During this financial year, we enhanced the salaries for scientists by shillings 508 billion. We shall continue to support scientists and innovators to undertake the process of intellectual property registration, train and sensitize stakeholders on intellectual property. We have provided 257 billion to support science, innovation, technology development. Mineral beneficiation. Madam Speaker, in order for Uganda to reap the benefits of mineral resources, Uganda's mineral deposits will be quantified to ascertain their value before beneficiation. We shall also operationalize the recently approved mineral legislation to regulate artisan and small-scale miners. For the development of minerals, an allocation of 54.4 billion has been provided. Maintaining security, good governance and rule of law. Madam Speaker, security, good governance, and the rule of law are the bedrock of the success of our socio-economic interventions. In order to guarantee the security of persons and property, the capacity of security and intelligence agencies will be strengthened to address any security threats and build the national defense capability. In order to enhance good governance, Parliament's legislative and oversight role will be strengthened to ensure proper use of public funds, among others. Madam Speaker, you faulted me on something. I will touch it on when I'm concluding by our not attending parliamentary committees, but I'll comment on that. Furthermore, we will ensure compliance with the rules and regulations in public financial management and implement Parliament's recommendations on the use of public funds. To improve efficiency and effectiveness of government, we will further automate financial management systems. These include program budgeting system for the budget preparation, monitoring and reporting, the integrated financial management system for budget execution, the human capital management for personnel and payroll management, e-government procurement, e-passport, and the one border posting, among others. Madam Speaker, the Integrated Bank of Projects has recently been relaunched to improve public investment management, including the tracking of project performance. Projects whose implementation has unduly delayed without sound reason will be removed from the public investment plan. Madam Speaker, the rationalization of government agencies will commence in financial year 24-25. In addition, the government has stopped the creation of additional administrative units and agencies. Madam Speaker, to enhance access to justice, the target is to reduce court case backlog by about 6,000 cases by end of June 2024 from the 50,000 outstanding cases. A total of 117 already have complete frontline criminal and civil justice service delivery points comprising of a police station, court, prison, prosecution services, and legal aid services, among others. The target is to have 119 districts with justice service delivery points by end of June 2024. The construction of the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal buildings in Kampala and the Soroti and Rukungiri High Court buildings will be completed. In addition, the High Court buildings in Albetong, Budaka, Lyantonde, and the Magistrate Court buildings in Karenga, Patongo, and Abim will also be completed. Madam Speaker, the functions which include enactment of legislation, oversight, and accountability roles will further be strengthened. In this regard, the construction of parliamentary chambers is ongoing. Madam Speaker, security, governance, the legislature, and the administration of justice have been allocated shillings 9.1 trillion next financial year, up from 8.1 trillion this financial year. Fiscal strategy for financial year 23-24 and the medium term. Madam Speaker, the fiscal strategy for next financial year prioritizes enhancing revenue collection, the rationalization of public expenditure, and ensuring long-term debt sustainability. This will reduce reliance on external financing for socio-economic transformation. Therefore, the fiscal strategy will focus on the following. 1, continuing effective implementation of the domestic revenue mobilization strategy. 2, repurposing the national budget to achieve high multiplier effect of government interventions on the economy and improve the efficiency and effectiveness of government programs and projects. 3, mobilizing external concession loans and utilizing non-concession loans for projects with high economic and financial returns. 4, limiting domestic borrowing to an average of 2.2% of GDP in the short medium term to avoid crowding out of the private sector through rising interest rates. And 5, reducing the budget deficit to within a maximum lift of 5% of GDP and gradually converging towards the East African target of a deficit of 3% of GDP. Next financial year, the budget deficit will be reduced to 3.5% of GDP. In order to live within our means, we have reduced consumptive expenditure During the next financial year, there will be no purchase of new vehicles for political leaders and public officers except for hospital ambulances, medical supplies and distribution, agricultural extension services, security and revenue mobilization. Don't roast me, please. That's a decision that we took. Travel abroad has also been restricted to statutory functions and for critical legal and resource mobilization functions. We will also regulate expenses on workshops and seminars. Madam Speaker, during this year, domestic arrears worth shillings 166 billion were settled. Government is committed to paying verified suppliers, court awards, and compensation for ranches. Next financial year, shillings 200 billion has been allocated to settle domestic arrears. Madam Speaker, to improve absorption and utilization of external loans and grants, government has undertaken the following measures. 1, requiring accounting officers of ministries, departments, and agencies to provide quarterly physical performance briefs to the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, and Office of the Prime Minister on the performance of externally financed projects under their jurisdiction. 2, ensuring project selection, design, approval, and analysis is undertaken before the project is approved for funding. 3, providing a dedicated fund for land acquisition and right of way instead of earmarking funds for particular projects to address delays in compensation. 4, commencing project implementation only on sites where there are no rights of way and other physical encumbrances. 5, requiring all environmental and social safeguards to be enforced by the Minister of Gender, Labor and Social Development and the National Environmental Management Authority during the project design. 6, enhancing dialogue with the development partners to ensure smooth implementation of externally funded projects. And 7, placing all project coordinators on performance-based contracts to improve accountability for project performance. Domestic revenue mobilization for the financial year we are budgeting for. Madam Speaker, domestic revenues for financial 23-24 are projected to amount to 29.7 trillion, of which 27.4 trillion will be tax revenue and 2.3 trillion will be non-tax revenue. This represents a revenue effort of 14.3 of GDP. We want to go to 18-20 in the immediate future. Under the domestic revenue mobilization strategy, the objective is to improve revenue collection to between 16 to 18 of GDP over the next 5 years from about 13.5 of GDP currently now. I have said that already. Next financial priority has been placed on improving tax administration, including use of ICT to fight tax evasion and rationalizing tax exemptions to improve their effectiveness and reduce revenue leakage. Madam Speaker, government is undertaking the following tax measures and reforms in tax administration to further improve revenue mobilization. Rationalization of tax exemptions. Madam Speaker, to reduce revenue losses from exemptions, next financial year we shall commence the rationalization of tax exemptions. However, we will continue to provide tax exemption based on the following. 1, apply the criteria including minimum requirements for application of any new tax exemptions. 2, assess the costs and the benefits of all tax exemptions to ensure adherence to initial objectives. 3, streamline and clarify the roles and responsibilities in the governance of tax exemptions. Madam Speaker, the respective provisions of the tax laws that provide the following exemptions have been repealed. 1, deductions allowed for accelerated wear and tear on plant and machinery. No more depreciation will apply henceforth. 2, exemption on VAT for diapers, inputs for processing hides and skins into finished leather, and inputs into iron ore, smelting into billets. Tax laws amendment. Madam Speaker, the tax laws have been amended to improve the tax system and ensure fairness. These measures have generated $615 billion in addition to revenue next year, equivalent to 3.3% of GDP. The amendments are detailed in the respective tax laws approved by Parliament. I will, however, highlight a few of these amendments later on. Income tax. Madam Speaker, the Income Tax Act has been amended to allow taxpayers who obtain credit facilities from SACCOs, non-deposit-taking microfinance institutions, self-help groups, and community-based microfinance institutions to deduct the entire interest on loans from these institutions as a business expense while determining their taxable income. This is the practice for taxpayers borrowing from commercial banks and microfinance institutions. The objective of this measure is to extend this benefit to borrowers of microfinance institutions and money lenders. This will support low-income individuals and groups to enable them access financial services and improve profitability and survival rate of the SMEs. Madam Speaker, in addition to withholding tax of 10%, Madam Speaker, in addition, a withholding tax of 10% has been imposed on commissions paid to agent bankers to equalize their tax treatment with other agents operating similar businesses, such as mobile money agents. Value added tax. Madam Speaker, the VAT Act has been amended to 1. Exempt the supply of concentrates and seed cake from VAT to incentivize local manufacturing of animal feeds and premixes. 2. Allow non-resident taxpayers to file returns and pay tax in US$ to facilitate compliance of non-resident taxpayers operating in Uganda. 3. Require foreign remote providers of electronic goods and services to account for VAT on goods and services sold in Uganda, so as to bring e-commerce transactions into the tax system. In addition, the scope of electronic services on which VAT is applicable has been expanded to include, among others, films, games of chance, advertising platforms, streamlining platforms, cab hailing services, cloud storage, and data warehousing. Excise Duty Act Amendment. Madam Speaker, the Excise Duty Act has been amended to remove the excise duty of $9 per minute on incoming international calls originating from the United Republic of Tanzania. This will include Tanzania in the one area network comprising the other East African Community member states. Phone users in East African Community will now be able to make and receive calls at local rates regardless of their location within the one network area. Madam Speaker, the size of investment capital required for an investor to benefit from excise duty exemption on construction materials has been reduced from $5 million to $50 million for Uganda nationals. Foreign investors will be required to have investment capital of at least $50 million in order to benefit from this exemption. In order to deter undervaluation, excise duty on mineral water, bottled water, and other waters purposely for drinking has been imposed at 10% or $75 per liter, whichever is higher. The Excise Duty Act has also been amended to clarify the taxation of spirits for human consumption on one hand, and the exemption from excise duty of spirits used as raw materials for the production of disinfectants and sanitizers. Tax Procedure Code and Amendment. Madam Speaker, the Tax Procedure Code Act has been amended to waive any interest and penalty on tax arrears outstanding as of 30th June 2023 in order to address requests from taxpayers who have cited the hardships caused by the COVID-19 lockdown. This provision is, however, limited to taxpayers who come out and pay by 31st December 2023. Where the taxpayer pays part of the principal tax outstanding by the deadline, the payment of interest and penalty shall be waived on a pro rata basis. After that date, URA will decisively enforce recovery of all taxes and penalties. Ratification of the Convention of the Mutual Administrative Act Assistance in Tax Matters Implementation Act. Madam Speaker, Parliament has enacted a Convention on Mutual Administrative Assistance in Tax Matters Implementation Act 2023. This is to increase cooperation among tax authorities in participating countries to tackle tax avoidance and cross-border tax evasion. This will assist URA to receive correct information to deter illicit financial transactions where the country is estimated to lose revenue amounting to shillings 300 to 500 billion annually. Tax administration reforms. Madam Speaker, sustainable revenue collection requires efficiency in the management and administration of the tax system. The following measures will be undertaken. 1. Strengthening the taxpayer register expansion program framework, which is a collaboration between Uganda Revenue Authority, Uganda Registration Services Bureau, Kampala Capital City Authority, and the Ministry of Local Government in revenue collection. This framework targets to improve the environment for business formalization and growth. 2. Supporting local governments to enhance their revenue effort, including using electronic systems. 3. Undertaking VAT field audits, complex audits, and strengthening data recovery. 4. Leveraging ICT to analyze data and integrating with other government systems to properly identify the taxable transactions and taxpayers. 5. Improving taxpayer awareness to know their rights and obligations and enhance stakeholder engagements. 6. Continuing tax education and awareness intervention across regions, sectors, and gender. 7. Further strengthening of URA staff compliance to procedures, guidelines, and standards to curb corruption tendencies and minimize revenue leakages, including staff deployment in areas with highest risk for revenue collection. 8. Utilizing the alternative dispute resolution mechanism by negotiating with the taxpayers for settlement of tax disputes out of the court system to avoid delays in the resolution of tax disputes. 9. Using ICT systems such as electronic fiscal receipting and evidencing system, electronic fiscal devices, and the digital tracking system, tax stamps, and rental tax solution, and telecom sector activities. 10. Continuing the outgoing integrated drive to combat corruption. Let me repeat this. Continuing the ongoing integrated drive to combat corruption and other vices essential for improving revenue collection. 11. Intensifying the surveillance of wider coverage of porous borders to curb smuggling through extensive intelligence-focused operations supported by use of drones and body cameras. Strengthening regional integration and trade. Madam Speaker, budget consultations with our regional ministers of finance were held on 8th to 12th May 2023 in Arusha, Tanzania, and agreed to make some changes in the East African taxation structure. Madam Speaker, to make our industries more competitive, attract investments, and remove the remaining barriers to trade among African countries, we agreed as East African Community partner states to change the taxes paid on goods coming from outside the East African Community as follows. 1. 0% duty levied on imports of raw materials and capital goods. 2. 10% duty charged on imports of intermediate goods. 3. 25% duty charged on imports of finished goods not readily available in the region. 4. A maximum rate of 35% duty charged on imports of finished goods readily available in the region. And 5. Small adjustments to promote import substitution and value addition of our local industries. Now I turn to public debt. Madam Speaker, Uganda's public debt stood at shillings 80.2 trillion, equivalent to 21.7 US dollars billion as at the end of December 2022. Of this amount, external debt was shillings 47.9 trillion, equivalent to 12.9 US dollars billion, while domestic debt was 33.4 trillion Uganda shillings, equivalent to US dollars 8.9 billion. Public debt is projected at shillings 88.9 trillion, equivalent to 23.7 US dollars billion by 30th June 2023. In nominal terms, Uganda's debt to GDP is projected to drop to 48.2% this financial year ending this month, from 48.6% at the end of June 2022. The reduction is due to the government commitment to debt sustainability. This is slightly below the government policy target of not more than 50% of GDP, and also below the 52.4 threshold provided for in the Charter of Fiscal Responsibility as at the end of financial year 23-24. Madam Speaker, the debt service to domestic revenue is projected at 34.1% for the financial year ending June, compared to 30.6% in the previous year. The increase in debt service cost was due to external commercial and domestic borrowing. This takes away money from the budget, which would have funded other government priorities such as health and education. Debt sustainability. Madam Speaker, to maintain debt sustainability, government will work to 1. Ensure effective implementation of the domestic revenue mobilization strategy to boost the capacity to increase domestic revenue collection. 2. Reduce expenditure in areas of lower priority in order to support fiscal consolidation. 3. Access new sources of financing, including climate and green financing, leveraging private equity for infrastructure investment and scaling up public-private partnerships, and leverage non-traditional innovative funding structures and identifying appropriate credit enhancement mechanisms. 4. Limit non-concessional debt to high-impact, high-return projects such as the standard gauge railway projects, development of industrial parks, power transmission lines, water for production and tourism roads. 5. Reduce domestic borrowing. Measures to deepen the debt market. Madam Speaker, my ministry has been working with the Bank of Uganda to reform the domestic capital market and make it more competitive. These reforms include rolling out of the use of a mobile money platform for investing in government treasury bill and bonds to broaden the investor base by enabling ordinary Ugandans to participate increase competition, and reduce the cost of borrowing. 2, finalize the framework for creating new and innovative government bonds to finance the budget, including infrastructure bond for financing infrastructure projects, green bonds for financing climate-smart projects, Sukuku bonds for integrating development finance based on Islamic banking principles, among others. Madam Speaker, the draft bills to operationalize Islamic banking in Uganda are ready for submission to Parliament. I urge Parliament to expedite the enactment to allow the private sector to access this source of funding. Resource envelope for financial year 23-24. Madam Speaker, the resource envelope for financial year 23-24 amounts to shillings 52.7 trillion as detailed below. 1. Domestic revenue amounts to 29.7 trillion, of which 27.4 trillion will be tax revenue, and 2.3 trillion will be non-tax revenue. 2. Domestic borrowing amounts to 3.2 trillion. 3. Budget support accounts for, budget support 2.8 trillion. 4. External financing for projects amounting to shillings 8.3 trillion, of which 3.0 Uganda shilling trillion is from grants and shillings 5.3 trillion is from loans. 5. Appropriation in aid collected by local governments amount to shillings 287 billion. Domestic debt refinancing will amount to shillings 8.4 trillion. 7. Other financing shillings 222.0 billion. Madam Speaker, total expenditure will be 52.7 trillion. Wages and salaries will amount to 7.3 trillion, and non-wage recurrent expenditure 13.5 trillion. Government of Uganda development expenditure amounts to 6.1 trillion, and external project supporting financing is 8.3 trillion Uganda shillings. Areas worth 215.8 billion will be settled. Appropriation aid shillings 287 billion have been provided for. External debt repayment amounting to shillings 2.6 trillion and interest payment of shillings 6.1 trillion will be made. Domestic debt financing amounting to 8.4 trillion. Madam Speaker, I have attached the details of the resource envelope and other allocations for financial year 23-24. I conclude. Madam Speaker, this budget is dedicated to the Ugandans who are currently not in the money economy. Let me repeat. Madam Speaker, this budget is dedicated to those Ugandans who are currently not in the money economy, to those individuals and households whose income per year is below 20 million shillings. They have now the opportunity to utilize the support that the NRM government has provided under the parish development model, the MIOGA, and other government initiatives. This budget supports taxpayers who are recovering from the after-effect COVID-19. For industrialists and entrepreneurs, it improves the environment within which you are operating. It aims to lower the cost of doing business, reduce the time spent transporting goods, including agricultural produce from farm to markets. It also ensures
possibilities to other people is like what we're on earth to do.
Competitive in the region and the global export markets. This budget supports the transformation from a raw material-based economy to a manufacturing and knowledge-based economy. It therefore promotes value addition, business growth, and job creation for the youth, women, and all Ugandans. It is a budget that provides opportunity for every Ugandan to have a stake in this economy. I therefore dedicate this budget to those Ugandans who are working hard day and night to expand and modernize our economy and our country. I beg to move, Madam Speaker, who are working hard.
Thank you so much, Honorable Kasaija.
Day and night to expand and modernize
Minister of Finance. Just a slight.
Our economy and our country. I beg to move. Madam Speaker, who are working hard
on resource envelope for finance. Thank you so much, Honorable Kasaija.
Day and night to expand and modernize
Minister of Finance. And this is for our Hansard.
Our economy and our country. I beg to move.
Is 229.0 billion.
Madam Speaker,
not 222. Just a slight correction.
who are working hard.
Then on the public debt stock, the public. Thank you so much. Honorable Kasaija is 80.8 trillion, not 80.2. That is what is on your record.
To expand and
so the Hansard should be corrected.
modernize
Minister of Finance. And this is for our Hansard.
our economy and our country. Yeah.
Then on the issue of the
I beg
loan,
to move.
the loan is 229.0 billion, which Uganda intergovernmental fiscal transfers that is phase 2. Then Uganda secondary school expansion. Then on the public debt stock project, these loans were approved in 2021. And thank you so much. Honorable Kasaija is 80.8. The implementation is the acquisition of ownership of land. One of the conditions that was given is that the
To expand and
schools must give ownership. There should be evidence of ownership. So we request local government and central government to ensure that there is ownership of this land for implementation of the loan. And this is for our hand. Otherwise, we are already
our
paying the
economy
interest.
and our country.
The other issue, then on the issue of
I
the
beg
loan, is on, I had members, HECO, is 229. On the issue of the standard gauge railway. The standard gauge railway, a loan was passed in the Uganda intergovernment 2021 by Parliament and was returned in 2020. Phase 2. Then Uganda secondary school 23 after change of term of borrowing. The terms of borrowing were changed, so the loan is still with the Committee of National Economy. These loans were the standard gauge railway is not completed. And thank you so much. The meter gauge railway. The meter gauge railway is not completed.
And
implementation is the acquisition is not correct that it is complete land. One of the conditions that was given is that the thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Schools must give ownership.
Some of these
There
statements were
should be
made
evidence of
in
ownership.
anticipation
So we request
that
local government
as soon
and
as
central government to ensure that
we resume Parliament, action will be taken, because they are now
there is
being added
ownership of
on
this land for implementation of the law.
the budget of the coming year, Madam Speaker. But where
Otherwise, we are already
our
paying the
record is inconsistent with yours, first of all, I will apologize. And our country.
The other issue,
But I will go and check with my team and see where the mistake. I beg to
is on
is, and I will go for you that in writing. Thank you.
I had members. HECO is thank you so much on the issue of the standard gauge railway report. And we want the standard gauge railway alone was congratulate you. Passed. Thank you. Honorable members and Uganda intergovernmental distinguished guests, 2021, as I said before, by Parliament, the President and was returned attending virtually and would love to make his remarks on his budget. 23, constitutionally, the Minister of Finance, of term of borrowing is none other than the terms of borrowing were changed. I now want to take this opportunity. The loan is still to invite His Excellency the President to make his remarks and crown the budget speech. Thank you so much. Your Excellency, you're most welcome. Kindly, the meter gauge railway. The meter gauge railway is not completed. Address Parliament, the implementation, and by extension, is the assumption is not correct that it is complete land. One of the conditions that was given is that the finance.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
The President. Schools must give ownership.
Some of these statements were made
evidence of
in
ownership.
anticipation
So we request
that
local government
as soon
and
as
central government to ensure Parliament and
The Right
by
Honourable Prime Minister,
we
all the
resume
other
Parliament, action will be taken, because they are
leaders of the state
now
There is
being added
ownership of
and the
on
party,
this land for
Their
implementation
Highnesses,
of the law.
the budget of the coming year, Madam Speaker.
the
But
cultural
where
leaders,
Otherwise, we are already paying.
ladies and gentlemen.
inconsistent with yours, first of all, I will apologize.
I thank the Minister of Finance for the right
The other issue,
budget on my behalf. Prime
But I will go
Minister,
and check with my team and
all the other, as I told you, leaders
see where the mistake.
of the state of the national address, and the party
is on
is, and I
and as the Minister told you, their Highnesses a little while ago,
will go for you that in writing. Thank you.
I had members. Heko.
Spiritual leaders, our economy, ladies and gentlemen, be US dollars. I thank the Minister
so
of
much,
Finance
Honorable Minister
for reading
Gauge
the budget on my behalf at the end of the coming
Standard Gauge Railway.
financial year.
A loan was congratulate you.
As I told you,
The
this will
honorable
mean the
members
state of the nation address that our economy and as the minister have grown. Told you,
distinguished guests, 2021, as I said before, by Parliament, the President, and was returned attended
by
virtually,
37 times our economy, it has
and would love to make his remarks on his budget.
increased US dollars 7 times in size.
Constitutionally, the Minister of Finance
compared to Uganda's economy
terms of borrowing were changed,
of
and
19
now
of the coming financial year.
this opportunity. The loan is still to invite His Excellency the President to make his remarks and crown the budget speech.
Therefore, this will mean we have done a good job that our economy on the 3 tasks will have grown.
You're most
These
welcome.
tasks should be clear.
Kindly, the meter gauge railway.
Time, all of
The meter
you,
gauge railway is not completed.
it has
Address
increased
Parliament
37 times
and
in size. In
is the absorption is not correct.
running public affairs compared to Uganda.
One of the conditions that was given
19
is that the
years.
finance.
The 3 tasks.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Therefore, we have done a good job, what we called minimum economic recovery. This task should be that is what we set out to do. In 1987, who get involved? Minimum
Of these
And
statements
crown
were
the
made.
budget.
economic affairs.
Of ownership.
anticipation.
One.
So we request
Otherwise,
the
we
government
make a lot of
as soon
and
mistakes.
central
Expansion.
government ensure that
Parliament.
The 3 Of the tasks, sectors, the right honorable
extension.
had recovered are those sectors what we call minimum to economic recovery. And 3, that is what we set out diversification in 1987 from the original narrow minimum narrow spectrum economic recovery. Number 1, the colonial times of the 3 C's and 3 T's. Expansion of the sector. Remember, I have told you many times about the 3 C's sectors which had recovered of the colonial times. Expand them. Of the 3 C's. Expansion of the sector. The 3 T's. Diversification. The 3 C's being cotton from the original coffee and copper, narrow narrow spectrum tobacco tourism of the colonial times, and the 3 C's and 3 T's. So therefore, you remember I have told you many times about that economy we restored of the colonial times economy which had been destroyed. The 3 C's and the 3 T's. That is what we called the minimum recovery. Being cotton, coffee, and copper. Secondly, we expanded T's being tobacco, that's tourism, small economy, and tea. That's why, for instance, you hear, so therefore, that coffee, number 1, which was 2 million bags, we restored, is now 9 million bags, been destroyed. That is what we called the minimum recovery. 3 million kilograms. Secondly, we expanded, is now 60 million kilograms, small economy. So, number 1, that's why, for instance, you hear recovery. That coffee, number 2, which was 2 million bags, expansion. Number 3, now 9 million bags. Diversification. Tea from the original 23 million kilograms of the 3 C's and 3 T's to many more is now 60 million kilograms. Such as what? So, number 1, fish recovery, dying of old age in Lake Victoria here. But now, we have something like, at one time we had gone to 22 factories, but now I think we have like 12 factories of fish. Maize was just for roasting on the roadside. People didn't know that maize was money. But now maize, in fact, they used to make a distinction between what they call cash crop and food crop. And food crop was supposed not to be cash crop. So maize was cash crop, was food crop, not cash crop. It is now both. Bananas, milk, that's how my tribe had been left out of the money economy by the colonial people. Milk was just for drinking and making the Banyankore women very fat. But it was not a source of money. For money, for milk of selling in the towns, it was coming either from abroad or from Kenya, KCC. Beef, cocoa, beans, gold, etc. All these have now been added. So therefore, clearly, minimum recovery, expansion, diversification should be clear to all of you who talk so much about some of these things. Those are the 3 tasks. But we also added a 4th task, the knowledge economy, for instance, automobiles, technology. When you talk of Chira, you are now talking of a new economy. You are no longer talking of just coffee and agriculture and hotels. You are not even talking of simple manufacturing. You are talking of high knowledge, high tech manufacturing. So this is the 4th task now, the transformation, minimum recovery, expansion, diversification of what was there, but also new type of economy based on science and high technology. Example, automobiles, pharmaceuticals, vaccines, etc. This is, in addition, some limited industrialization for some of the products in the areas of sugar, for instance, steel products by recycling scrap, soap manufacture, beer, beverages, cement, etc. So apart from the high tech, we're already moving also on that really low technology, value addition to our raw materials. And these are very important, very interesting figures. This value addition, sort of partial industrialization, is aimed at two missions. Number one, import substitution. Mulekerawo okusaka, don't import, make locally. But also export promotion. Now, apparently, when I was writing this short speech, when here in my house, when some people said about the ICU, because it allows me to do one or two things, assisted by my comrade, Mama Janet, who is here, from a distance, as you can see, safe distance. So when I was writing this short speech, I asked my people, to cross-check these figures, but because if they are true, they are very interesting. The import substitution value of these industrial products, these small industries, for all these sabuni, those low industries. The import substitution value of these industrial products is about US dollars 3.6 billion. I didn't know that these small factories of Mitayimbwa, soap, all these our little factories, that they are saving us a figure of $3.6 billion, which we would have to look for if we are still importing them. But they are also apparently bringing into the country as export earnings US dollars 1.6 billion. Omukazi omunyankore weyagambira antukahize ngo bere etutu yobere shagama. There was this Munyankore woman who was catching locusts. You know, the other time when we had a problem of locusts, when they were threatening us, many people did not know that some of the Ugandans were not happy with me because I killed the locusts quickly. But some of the Ugandans who eat the locusts, they said, this man has spoiled our food. He should have allowed us to deal with these locusts. NCJ. They used to catch them and eat them. So in the 1930s, when the locusts invaded us, a Munyankore woman went into the papyrus swamp to catch the NZJ, the locusts, and she was carrying a child on the back. And she was so excited with catching the locusts. Those papyrus plants sometimes can be very sharp if they are broken. So the papyrus fragment cut the throat of the child at the back, and the woman had a warm liquid, and she thought it was sweat. But when she finished catching the locusts and said, "I thought it was sweat." It has turned out to be blood. So, me, I didn't know that the little work we were doing, I thought it was sweat, but apparently it is blood. It is something serious. We are saving you 3.6 billion import substitution and earning for you $1.6 billion from the exports of now no longer just coffee and so on and these other things, but industrial products. That's really, I was very happy to get that figure. However, the big proportion of our economy is still a raw materials economy. So please, especially the NRM cadres, understand this very clearly. This economy we are saying has grown, as Mr. Kaseja was saying, to $49 billion now, and it will be 55 point something billion by the end of this financial year, which we have entered. You should know that Chivaro, that estimation is mainly a raw materials economy. Economy ekyali mu kutunda embidde, selling the sour bananas before you process them. Meaning, and processed coffee, although I am putting on fine spinner's shirt here, still much of the cotton is sold as raw material. Maize, you can imagine we sell maize, wempeke, maize of grains outside, and then we import animal feeds, you can imagine. Animal feeds are from mainly maize. You sell grains of maize, you import animal feed more expensively. And our poultry farmers are crying for animal feeds. And the other people of the pigs. So, and even the cattle people. Until recently, we have been importing leather from outside. You can imagine, Amaliba, skins and hides. Until recently, when I built that leather factory in Kaumu, our people were importing leather from China. And from India. Now, this is where and I was hearing all of you making speeches there. But I am begging you, all the NRM cadres, this is where history demands collective and cohesive action from the NRM cadres. Now that we have got an educated workforce, because now we have got, you saw what Mr. Kaseja was saying, that %80 of Ugandans now can read and write. You heard him saying it there. %80 literacy rate, 80%. From 43%. Are literate. Now that you have got an educated workforce, now that we have got enough electricity, now that we have got good roads, and that we are building or repairing the railway system, here in the speech I did not add, but Mr. Kaseja talked about it. We have got cheap money in UDB, for industry. Every effort must be made to add value to all our products. because this is what is lacking now. To add value to all our products. Add value to coffee, please. Why? Because you will get money more than 10 times more when you add value to coffee than the way we are selling it now. To cotton, timber, cocoa, even fish products, although the factories are producing fish, fillet, and so on, but we can add more value, apparently. Gold, we need more gold refineries. Iron ore, we don't want to sell iron ore unprocessed to anybody. We need to sell steel, copper, vermiculite. There's a lot of vermiculite in Bugisu there. Phosphates, you can imagine we are crying that there is a war in Europe, so we can't get phosphates now. We have phosphates here in Tororo. The Chinese man who had come there, our people stole money from him. He was stupid. He was giving bribes to idiots and thieves. He should have helped me to get them, and I would have hanged them. But we shall get other investors. So, adding value to phosphates, petrochemicals, maize, bananas, etc., etc. By doing this same economy will jump to US dollars 550 billion instead of the mere 55.2 billion we are talking about. Laudable though it is, I am happy to say, oh, we have gone to 55.2 billion, but I'm not satisfied. No. And I think in the other speech which I gave, on State of the Nation, I quoted the example of South Korea, and I was able to quote for you the economy of South Korea in 1961. I hope you can compare it with Uganda of 1961. I think that time in the other speech I said the economy of South Korea was two something billion. It is now almost 2 trillion. Imagine the little South Korea has got a GDP half of the whole GDP of Africa. Of Africa to Botswana. South Korea is half size of Uganda. But they now have a GDP which is, I think, almost 2 trillion. And you hear that, I hear all these people quoting when they go to meetings. African GDP is now 3-something trillion. I really feel embarrassed. Why can't these people keep quiet? How can the whole of Africa have economy smaller than Japan? Because Japan has got something like 5 trillion. Now here you are talking about the GDP of Africa being 3 trillion and you talk about it. You are not even embarrassed. Me, I'm embarrassed to talk like that. That's what I was telling the NRM MPs in Kyankwanzi. You are talking of the oversight. Oversight. Okay, thank you very much. But is it in order to oversight backwardness? And you feel satisfied that I'm overseeing backwardness? 39% of the people who are outside the money economy, coffee, raw material, which is 100% given away, free. We are not, you should talk of transformation. You should be transformation agents. So therefore, for me, I'm insisting. Why do I say that? And I would like anybody to challenge me after this, when I get out from this corona. I will be able to face anybody who wants a challenge. Why do I say this? It is because the 55.2 billion you are talking about dollars we are talking about presupposes only a quantitative expansion of our economy through creating more products. You grow more coffee, you grow more coffee. That's how you end up. You grow more maize, more raw materials. That's how you end up growing by 6%. The one Mr. Kaseja was talking about. But if instead of just growing coffee beans, if I process a kilo of coffee from bean to powder, instead of earning $2, I earn $40. What is that percentage now? Eh? No. I'm not ready to accept that. That slave plan of slavery for Africa. My envisioned economy of US dollars, 550 billion, acknowledges the already achieved goal of quantitative expansion. Grow more coffee, grow more maize, grow more what? Fantastic. But when you add value, what growth speed are you talking about? But adds another element. My envisioned economy of the US dollars 550 billion acknowledges the already achieved goal of quantitative expansion, but adds another element of qualitative leap through value addition. That's what I'm talking about. That is not all, however. Remember, there are still 39% of our households that are still spectators instead of being part of the players. These are the Bakorele Chida Chonka, teach me ichkeken, working only for the stomach. Here below is a report written for me by Major Gaba, one of our army officers, about one of our wealth creators, Nyakana of Rwengaju, near Fort Portal. This army officer wrote for me a report after she had visited there with the cattle rustlers from Karamoja. These young cattle rustlers contacted me when I was in Baregi, and I met them and I said, okay, you think stealing cows is good? Let me show you how people who like cows do things. So I took them around to Fort Portal, to different places. Now this Major Gava went with them